Anyway, so what's happening behind the scenes? The councillors will vote apparently on this choice to upgrade Eden Park, which is a great ground, but it's also in the same breath you can say it's a dog as well, or this fantastic forward-looking, amazing-looking thing on the waterfront in a place where they've got room for it, and you could really drive growth and commerce and shopping and wining, dining, all that sort of stuff, and you could have all the different sports teams there, conference rooms. Imagine, building. They did this argument in Wellington, and people in Thornton, all the snobs in Thornton said, no, not on our watch. Can you imagine not having the stadium in Wellington? Can you imagine not having it? Anyway, what's the argument in Auckland? Is it needed? Christchurch is getting its one with its roof on. Maybe Christchurch is the national stadium. Maybe Christchurch is it. Isn't it? I don't know. Maurice Williamson, Auckland City Councillor, seems to be more high profile and busier than ever in his life these days. Maurice, g'day, mate. Nice to have you on.
Good morning, Duncan. Good to have you on. I've got a question for you. What's the
it,
National Stadium of Australia? Doesn't exist. What's the National Stadium of United Kingdom?
Doesn't exist. Well, Twickenham?
Correct. What's the National Stadium of Canada?
No idea.
Doesn't exist. So these countries are all what we would call comparable jurisdictions. They don't have a national stadium, and yet we got people screaming and yelling, we've got to have a national stadium.
Where did that come from?
Well, it's coming from everybody. Why haven't we got a national stadium? And everyone else has got one. So I went on Google and I did some checking, and no one has a national stadium as far as I can. Maybe Pyongyang in North Korea does.
Yeah, I don't know if they have either. Well, I mean, you could argue in Australia that it's some ANZ stadium, but then people in Brisbane will say, no, it's our stadium, So yeah,
and the people in Melbourne will say, no, it's not, and so on. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, so I mean, in the end, the other why I raised that is I actually don't know why I'm going to the governing body tomorrow to make a decision on something that we're going to announce we're not prepared to get involved in any way in funding it. So why is it our decision? No, I mean, I'm serious. Why is Auckland Council making a decision? I'll be asking this tomorrow, I promise you, and I can get back to you with what the answer is. But if we were going to be putting up $1 billion of ratepayers' money, then it would be our decision where we choose to put that. But we're going to be making it very clear that the council will not in any way be putting any money towards this. And so if Main Freight were going to build a big warehouse somewhere in New Zealand, would we be the ones that will decide where you put it, or would the people who are putting up the money and building the damn thing make that decision?
Well, you may well stop it being built through the RMA. I don't know, but maybe you're involved because it's the land.
We could. Well, there's no land involved if it's Eden Park. It's already got its footprint. We could actually be involved in speeding up consents, and I think that's something we could do. Although there's no real cost if we speed them up and do them quickly. We may be involved in making some small jiggery changes to the landscape in terms of roading and drop off and bus stops, and maybe even a small upgrade or whatever to the Kingsland railway station. But I just think it's a no-brainer. We literally have got no money, so we're making it clear as council that we won't be funding anything. And if we're not funding anything, I just don't know why it is we're supposedly making the decision on the future of the stadium.
Well, can I put it to you then? The land down at the waterfront. Who owns that land at the waterfront that the stadium would go on?
I'm not sure of who owns that land. I would imagine it's Ngāti Whātua, and it would be a Ngāti Whātua, because I think they're involved in the proposal. I would say they'd be making the land available because a lot of that land down on the waterfront is leasehold land.
Of course it is, because those apartments down there, that's right, that's why they're cheap, because they're leasehold. Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
So,
Ngāti Whātua owns a big chunk of all that reclaimed area.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's
a question I'll ask tomorrow. So I can't answer the question. We've been given a really good briefing on what the plans are and what stage 1 and stage 2 and stage 3, and the stage 3 is putting the retractable roof on, and I read it all with great. I thought, this is wonderful stuff. If I was the banker with some money, I'd be saying, right, well, I know why I'm involved, because I'm making a decision if I'm going to fund you or not. We're making it very clear tomorrow. I can tell you I've seen some of the recommendations that the council will not be involved in any way in funding it.
Okay, so what about Eden Park? There's no funding for Eden Park. There's no funding for the new stadium. So I'm with you now. I don't know why you're involved either, but you are. So Eden Park, where will they get their money from? They'd have to take out a massive loan, won't they?
Well, they should be a functioning operation. I mean, they have got huge revenues coming in from. I'd prepared, in Chris Luxon's view, to open up some of the consenting and allow them to have more events. But in the end,
Yeah, totally.
I mean, they're going to be able to attract 50,000 audiences to things like Coldplay. The revenue stream from that alone must be phenomenally good if they can have lots of those. And like any good business, you can borrow big to put in infrastructure development if your revenue stream's going to fund the cost of that debt.
I don't know if the revenue stream is as good as that, though, because only recently has it opened up to concerts because the Wowser Brigade didn't like it for years. So only now I think it goes to 12 concerts. And you're right, that's good money, I think. But don't they carry
well, if
huge
it's
debt?
not going
I
to
think
get the
Edinburgh
crowd,
carries huge debt.
but if it's not going to get the crowds, Duncan, and it's not going to have the events and so on, then why would we be building it?
Well, can I put this to you, Maurice? Given the population increase in Auckland, don't we need a new hospital?
Yep. I would have thought that would be one of the things very much on. Well, let me give you a cracker example. You know how Dunedin is desperately in need of a new hospital, right? We hear it all the time. My ward here in Auckland Council, the Howick ward, has a bigger population than Dunedin. We don't have a hospital at all. So I would have thought Auckland is going to have quite a lot of demand on it for infrastructure coming up. Certainly roading and definitely hospitals and schools. There's, population increase will drive a whole lot of new schools being needed. I would have thought using Eden Park to the best it can be used, expanding it as we can, probably a roof one day in the future. I'll well be up the chimney stack and gone, but I'll be looking from whatever cloud I'm living on and saying, oh, there they are, they're finally putting the roof on.
Did you want your ashes over Eden Park or not, Maurice? Was it something you considered?
No, but I tell you, it was Raymond's mum and dad were both New Zealand bowls champions. They had won a whole lot of bowling. When we went to the bowling club and asked could we sprinkle their ashes, we got an absolute no bloody way because we get 12 to 15 requests a week. And
no.
The bowling greens would be nearly 5 feet. They'd be 5 feet taller than they currently are. So we weren't able to do that.
I'm sure Evie would be against it as well. Yeah, no, it's a real problem with that sort of thing. Okay, so you're ticking the box of Eden Park. You're saying just put some lipstick on Eden Park and hope for the best.
I'm a fan. I've been to Eden Park since I was very young, and I flattered in Burnley Terrace for all of my university student days. It was right around the corner. I couldn't believe how many friends I had across New Zealand. When it came time for an all-black test match, I would get phone calls, and there was only big old landline sitting in the corridor, black phone, no cell phone. Hello, g'day, it's Jim here from Dunedin. Yeah. You remember? We played rugby in Palmerston North 4 years ago. Yeah. No, but okay, look, any chance I could stay at your place on the weekend? I'm coming up for the rugby. He'd arrive with 3 friends and 2 girlfriends, and there'd be sort of sleeping bags and everything dying up and down the corridor. So I've got a lot of emotional attachment to Eden Park. I think it's a fabulous place, and I hope that it prospers and does well.
But should you let emotion get in the way of the facts? Maybe the facts are that it shouldn't survive, Maurice, because it's not fit for purpose.
Well, that's obviously what tomorrow will be. We're going to be given very good factual basis for it. From what I can see, the briefing from the officials, they're saying that neither are economically viable, neither. Actually, the one down at the waterfront's not even functionally viable, but that's from the officials' point of view, but neither are economically viable, so maybe Eden Park just has to stay where it is right now. One day, when we sort of start digging oil out of the Great South Basin and become a multi-billion, trillion country like Dubai or Bahrain or whatever it is, maybe we could then build ourselves a whopping great stadium and all love it. But we're not wealthy enough to afford these gold-plated things, and we should be realistic about it.
Is that so? You think that's the case? So unless we expand our horizons around extracting minerals and things properly, or doing it properly, then we remain sort of chugging along the bottom of economic growth like we are at the moment. You don't think there's a way out of this?
I think economic growth is the way out of it, and I think that means getting rid of some of the most ridiculous rules where you see daily announcements that thing in Karangapi Road that got killed because of some lunatics trying to oppose what development should look like, and it's a big gravel pit sitting there unused. I mean, we've got to just start getting real. If the private sector are going to put money in and build stuff and it employs people and it creates economic wealth and it's GST that everyone's paying creates taxes, Well, one of the things we've got to realise, Duncan, I think it's missed in every debate we have. We're about the size of a small city anywhere else. And like in China, most cities are bigger than us. And I'm not talking Shanghai and Beijing, but just cities. Just a modest city is more than 5 million. And we're smaller than Sydney, and we're smaller than Melbourne, our whole country. And yet we're in a piece of geography the size of Japan, or a piece of geography the size of the UK. Now, if you want to run a cellular network or an electricity network in Japan, you've got 120 million people that are funding that through taxes and so on. You want to do it through New Zealand, you've got 5. Well, actually, probably only about 3 paying any tax.
Two.
Contributing. Okay, I'll go you 2.5 and we'll meet the halfway. But it's just, we've got to start getting realistic about who we are and what we are. And I remember when I was Minister of Transport in the 90s, we had a big public meeting in Auckland, and a lady got up and she said, I've just been to Hong Kong and they've got the most fabulous underground rail network, and why hasn't Auckland got it? And at that stage, Auckland didn't have a population of 1 million. So I said, I'll do your deal, lady. Right here and right now, I'm the Minister of Transport, I can do a deal. You give me 7 million people between Parnell and Ponsonby, and I'll build you a fabulous underground rail network. But while our country only has 4 million, which is what New Zealand's population was, we just haven't got the ability to fund that sort of infrastructure with a small number of productive people that are there to fund it.